Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are diving deep into a huge environmental fight over the Aravallis, a mountain range that's, get this, 2 billion years old. It's not just ancient, it's a vital shield protecting millions of people in India.
So let's just jump right in with a question that sounds, well, it sounds impossible, right? What if a massive, ancient mountain range, a literal wall keeping the desert at bay, was suddenly in danger of just vanishing? Not over millions of years, but vanishing on paper, almost overnight, just by changing a few words in a definition.
Here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the court order that kicked this whole thing off. Then we'll get into the weeds of the 100-meter controversy. That's the real heart of it. After that, we'll explore exactly why these mountains are so important, follow the money to see who might benefit, check out the clash between protesters and the government, and finally, look at where this whole uncertain situation stands right now.
All right, so where does all this start? You have to go back to May 2024. India's Supreme Court, trying to do the right thing and protect the Aravallis from stuff like illegal mining, issued an order. It told the government to come up with one single, clear definition for the entire range, which stretches across 4 states. The thinking was pretty simple. If everyone agrees on what an Aravalli Hill is, it's easier to protect it.
But what happened next was something nobody saw coming. The definition the government came back with, well, instead of protecting the mountains, it created a massive loophole. A loophole that, according to the source material, could effectively make most of the range invisible to the law, opening the floodgates for construction and mining.
So here's the heart of the matter, this new rule. The government said, okay, for a hill to be an Aravalli Hill, it has to be over 100 meters tall. Now, on the face of it, that sounds pretty reasonable, right? A standard benchmark. But the real controversy, the whole shebang, isn't about the number. It's about how you measure it. Okay, this is where it gets a little technical, but stick with me, because this one detail changes everything. Around the world, when you measure a mountain, you measure it from sea level. It's a universal standard. But this new rule for the Aravallis, it says you measure the height from the ground right next to it. And here's the kicker. The plains around the Aravallis are often already more than 100 meters above sea level themselves. It's a tiny tweak with massive consequences.
And the result of that tiny change in measurement? Bam! It's staggering. According to the Forest Survey of India, this new way of measuring means that over 90% of the Aravalli Hills would no longer qualify. Just like that, they wouldn't officially be Aravalli anymore, and all the legal protections they have would just evaporate.
So why are we talking about this? Why does a technical definition matter so much? Because the Aravallis aren't just some hills on a map. For literally millions of people in northern India, they are a lifeline. Let's break down the 3 huge jobs these mountains do for the region. They're a wall against the desert, they're the green lungs for one of the most polluted areas on the planet, and they're a giant natural sponge for drinking water.
First up, think of the Aravallis as a great green wall. It physically stops the sands of the Thar Desert from blowing east. The source we're looking at warns that if this barrier goes, places like Delhi and Haryana could start turning into deserts. At the same time, the forests on these hills are basically the lungs for the entire Delhi region, sucking up pollution and dust from the air.
And then there's the water. This is absolutely critical. The rocks in the Aravallis are full of cracks that catch rainwater, letting it seep down and refill the underground water supply that millions rely on. We've already seen what happens when the hills are destroyed. Water levels drop, and entire lakes, like the famous Bodka Lake, have literally just dried up and vanished.
This brings us to the million-dollar question, or maybe the billion-dollar question. If the environmental risks are this catastrophic, who exactly stands to gain from a definition that wipes 90% of a mountain range off the map? Well, as the source alleges, you just have to follow the money. The source points to 3 major players who could cash in big time if these protections disappear.
You've got this powerful trio, big-time real estate developers who are desperate for land near Delhi, a booming and often illegal farmhouse economy, building luxury getaways on protected land, and of course, the massive mining industry that needs stone and sand for all that construction.
And the source gives some pretty specific examples here. For real estate, it points to a case where the Patanjali Group allegedly used shell companies to buy up over 400 acres of protected land. And get this, for the farmhouse economy, a drone survey in just 4 villages found almost 7,000 illegal buildings on forest land. As for mining, well, between 2011 and 2017, Rajasthan saw over 4,000 cases of illegal mining in the Aravallis.
So as you can imagine, when news of this new definition got out, it absolutely exploded. What you saw next was a classic showdown, people on the streets versus the official government line. It became a true battle of narratives.
Literally thousands of people, students, lawyers, regular citizens, flooded the streets in Rajasthan and Haryana. They marched with this really powerful, simple message, chanting things like, "No Aravalli, no life." The hashtag Save Aravalli just blew up online. The public was not happy.
With all this pressure building, on December 24, 2025, the government responded. They put out a press release saying they had told the states to stop giving out any new mining leases in the Aravallis for now. And on the surface, this looked like a huge win for the protesters.
But here's the catch. According to the source we're looking at, this was a bit of a smokescreen. The announcement didn't actually create a new ban. It just repeated a temporary hold the Supreme Court had already ordered. Most importantly, it completely sidestepped the main event. That controversial 100-meter definition, the root of the problem, was still there.
All of this back and forth, the public outcry, the media attention, it all led to the latest twist in this story, and it's a big one. It leaves the whole thing just hanging in the balance.
So on December 29, 2025, in a really dramatic turn, the Supreme Court basically hit the brakes. It put a temporary hold on its own earlier decision that had allowed this new definition. The court said it's now going to create a brand new committee of experts to take a hard look at the whole issue. Essentially, it's a do-over.
And that's where we are right now. The 100-meter rule is on ice, but it's not gone for good. The future of 90% of one of the planet's oldest mountain ranges is now in the hands of this new committee. It really forces us all to ask a tough question, a question we're all grappling with. What is the true price of development?